at euphorbias. Euphorbias are one of the most diverse looking plants. It comes in so many forms. Who can name one of the most common forms of euphorbia that you have in your house every Christmas? Exactly. A poinsettia is a euphorbia. They have so many different ones. I pointed one out on my tour that has many, many, many little white flowers. In fact, Mo has that same one in her house, euphorbia. The flowers are all the same on all of these plants because, remember, that's how we've identified families. But what they have different are the bracts. So when you're poinsettia, whether you get the red or the yellow or the orange or the striped, those are all bracts. Those little itty bitty things in the center that are really not much to talk about, those are actually the flowers. Now, all of this group of plants, all the euphorbias, have a milky latex-like sap. Some of them are like the poinsettia, probably no problem. You can probably get it on you. You can take a bath in it. It probably is not going to cause a problem. One particular plant that we will point out on our tour, which is the Euphorbia sticks on fire. Beautiful plant. Beautiful. It's sometimes called a pencil cactus. It's not a cactus, it's euphorbia. And it's red and orange, and the more sun it gets, the more colorful it is. And that particular sap is so irritating that people have lost their vision from having it on their glove. They're pruning it or cutting it, and they rub their eye. Or you can even go wash your hands and then do this and get it in your eye. You can get severe corneal burns and with bad scar and lose your vision. So that is a plant. You have to really be careful where you put that and how you care for that. Not only do you want to wear gloves, but you want to clean your tools and wash your gloves afterwards, especially if you're sensitive to latex, as it is. It can cause some major problems with that particular plant. Okay, and the African euphorbias do resemble our cactus, and we'll show you some of those while we're out on our tour also. Okay, so here's some very diverse looking euphorbias, which this one is the sticks on fire. Our poinsettias, of course you can see. This is a Euphorbia obesa. Euphorbia obesa is that one. This one, these are not spines, they're just thorns. They're actually fairly soft. You could rub your arms through this. You probably aren't going to get hurt at all.
What's in the bottom left?
I'm sorry, louder?
Bottom left.
This one here,
Brown.
I knew someone would ask me the name of that. Remifolia, maybe? Does that sound right? I have that at home. Someone who knows the names of all these plants, I should have looked at the list of all these things. Little itty bitty, tiny little plants. I actually have a little flower on mine. I should have thought to bring it. The little flower is this little green thing that's sticking up maybe a half an inch. I haven't seen any flower on it yet. So we'll see what happens with that. I just have one in about a 6-inch pot. There's lots and lots of little, tiny little plants kind of all grouped together. I think that's Euphorbia gremifolia. And these are the flowers. Oh no. Yeah, they're all basically the same looking little flowers. And here you can see the bracts of the poinsettia along here. Bracts. There, around there. And this flower is a typical spurge. It's a common name, spurge. That's a pretty typical plant. We'll probably see some of those. Okay, so cactus versus succulent. How many people just want to call all of them cactus? I don't like cactus. I don't want to put cactus in. But cactus is its own little, wonderful little group. And they're distinguished from the other succulents because, which you can see in the next picture, because they have little cushion-like structures called areoles. And they have little spines that come from them. Also, that's where the flowers will come from if it's going, when it flowers. Typically, cactus flowers are really beautiful. Typically, succulent flowers, your typical succulent, aren't, that wonderful. I mean, they're okay. There's nothing wrong with them. In fact, I have some here. This is Mary's Dudleya. Name unknown because we didn't even know if it was a Dudleya until today. And Mary brought this to share. And you can come up and you can look at all its lots and lots of little flowers, but not real remarkable flowers on the succulents. But cactus have really, really beautiful flowers. So in this picture, you can see one of the little cushion-like areoles here with all the little spines that are coming out of that. Now, the spines are there for protection, I guess. If the animals learn fairly quickly that they're not going to sit on it or eat it. But they also are the modified leaves. And so, they love the clothes inside. So most of them don't. They just are there. Picture time. There we go. And you should be able to grow all of these in your garden. I tried to find things with flowers. But I also found this, again, this wonderful spiral shape, which is some other spiralis, but I can't remember what it is. This is an old man cactus. Male area. I'm going to see those out in the garden with these funny, funky little flowers that come out like that. Typical flowers are so they do tend to have most of the time flowers. This plant here is very unusual because that little circular thing kind of puts out a little pad of dinky little flowers at the top. And then next year it just goes taller and taller and taller. And this little orange thing will be 2, 3, 4, 5 inches tall if you keep it long enough.
Wow.
I have 14, I actually have 15 cactus, all with spines, including one with what they call a fishhook spine. Try getting your arm on that one. I have them all in little pots, little different kinds of pots. I have them all fishing lined onto the little railing on the front of my little garden. And one time I went out there and 4 of them had just been pushed into my garden. And because they were all fishing line tied, the pots didn't go in, but the plants did. So I could pick up the plants, put them back in. A year later I come out and 14 of them are gone. Oh. Yeah, that's exactly what I said. Including this little plant that was probably tall. Little thing. Someone just came and took them on a Friday night. I'm sure they were all swapping on Saturday morning.
What's the name of that?
I don't remember.
All my cactus flower, and I noticed that once they flower, the next day she falls off.
Yeah, typical. They're not very long-lived flowers. Some of them longer than others. A day, I think, is probably on the short end. Some of them will definitely last longer than that. But it's not something like the aloes that stay there for months. They don't do that. Is there another question? Yeah.
I have a barrel cactus that is about this big, and it was hit by the 2007 fire. And after the fire, it survived. And it sprouted 5 more barrel cactus on top of its head. I have never, I've seen barrel cactus in a million places. I have never seen one with 5 heads.
For those of you who didn't hear that, in the fire of 2007, her barrel cactus got injured. And its response to the injury was to put 5 more barrel cactus that grew out of the barrel cactus itself. Do you know the common name of a barrel cactus? A mother-in-law's cushion?
Oh.
I said these common names, they gotta go. So a little bit now on the crassulet family. Crassulets also come in many different visions. They don't all look alike. And there's lots of different kinds. They make nectar flowers. Most of them are very, very small. So we'll go to those kind. I'm going to show you several different slides here of pictures because there's so many different types. I was really surprised when I did this because I guess I never thought about aeoniums. This is an aeonium. I never thought of this as being a crassulent. Oh, really? It's a crassulent? No kidding. So lots of different kinds of aeoniums. They keep hybridizing these to come in different colors. I think one of the real pretty ones is this one here, which I think is really pretty. It's very, very light, very, very light. Sun glow. This is Schwarzkopf, and it's almost black, tiny little eye. This one is flat, and it grows very red center. This is the red. This is the same plant. And one of them is getting sun, and the other one is not getting sun. So the red one is the one that's getting the sun. This is the flower stalk on an aeonium. Again, when you see that flower stalk, you think, oh, I don't want to lose the plant, we'll just cut the flower stalk off. No, it doesn't work. You're still going to end up losing that part of the plant. But talk about something that puffs freely. Freely. You will have as many aeoniums as you want. Aeoniums come very tall. I've seen them as tall as I am with just heads. And I see them that look like just a mound. That is many, many different little plants. They're just mound. So they come in all kinds of different forms. And I think they're kind of fun. I think they're really pretty. I'm not a fan of the flower, but some people are. Echeverias, that's what this is. My echeveria. I think they're pretty. They're hybridizing these on a daily basis also, coming out all kinds of new colors. The new ones have little spots on them. And I think they're kind of cool. They have little curly edges, some are a little fuzzy, some are wrinkled. But again, this is the flower on all of them. Flower on all of them. This one here is called lipstick. Very, very firm, much different feel than this one, but it's still an echeveria. And these you can get at even the box stores, carrying those to these because they're pretty common. Others, I just picked out some other things. Jade plant is in this family, and so I put just an ordinary jade someplace on here. But ordinary jade is just really ordinary. Everyone looks at jade and goes, ick. But pretty much in the spring, it's filled with white flowers, and it can be really nice looking. I think this is a really, really funky little one. I don't know the name. It didn't have the name on the picture. I just went to Google Images for most of these. This is a paddle plant. That's one of the many names for this one, also called a flapjack plant. Very, very common. These are your typical sedums, all those nice little ground covers that you can get. You can put them into pots. If any of you know Laura Eubanks, she's Master Gardener. She does all those wonderful little arrangements that she brings to the monthly meetings sometimes. She does all kinds of stuff. If you went to the flower fields, you saw her alligator. She hand places each one of these little sedums in there. She's amazing. Yes?
I would like to add that some of these are frost tender. So if you get questions, make sure you do find out where people are coming from because succulents don't do well everywhere. All the time.
There are some succulents that will take
easy wherever, and it's
Some of them will go down to 20 degrees, and some will only go down to 32. Yeah, some of them will definitely be injured in a frost, and some of them will be injured by the heat. It just depends on which one. Some of them are a little more tender. Some of them will take full shade. Most of them will take full sun. There's so many hard just to group and say all succulents do this or all succulents are going to do that. Okay, a little bit about this term conversion evolution. There will not be a test on this at the end of the day. And it's just why do we have plants that look so similar that come from different parts of the world? And, is this one of life's little mysteries? There's really no good explanation that all of the botanists agree on for why we have this. But this is a great example. The Alawadia from Madagascar, we can go and see one of those on the last half of our tour. And then the Ocotillo from Baja. True Ocotillo grows in the desert out by El Centro, and every time it rains, the leaves come out and it flowers, and then no rain, all the leaves fall off, the flowers fall off, and it looks like a stick with spines. So that's a true Ocotillo. We do not have any true Ocotillos here in the garden. A number of different people have attempted to grow them, and they've all failed. So, but I don't have a good answer to this. If any of you have a good answer, I'm happy to learn. Okay. So, with all of this great information, what are we going to do, Master Gardeners, when everyone comes and asks you all the questions that you're so afraid that they're going to ask? Well, I don't want to do the hotline. I want to do an Ask the Master Gardener booth. I don't know any of the answers. Well, you know more than you think. But a lot of times, you don't know. And this is the hardest question, and you're not going to know the answer to this. What do you mean, what do you want to put in the garden? They want a no-maintenance garden. We already talked about that. There is no such thing as a no-maintenance garden. Unless they want to totally clean it over. And then it's well, gravel, you still have to clean it up from the storms last week. You have to keep the gravel from washing away in the rains. I mean, it's really hard to have a no-maintenance. That's one of those things you kind of look at someone and go, No, there really is no such thing as a no-maintenance. There's low maintenance. There's high maintenance, there's ignored gardens, absolutely, but there's really no such thing as a no-maintenance garden. And then they want to know, they come to you with this specific question. I have this spot in my yard, and 10 things have died there. What should I put there?
Rocks.
Here's the Western garden. And of course, there's also the how often should I water? You're going to ask that probably more often than any other question that you ask. And how much water? What is the reason that most people kill plants? Overwatering. Overwatering, absolutely. How many of you water your lawns every day? Good. Before you started in this class, how many of you water your lawns every day? I cannot tell you how many people, when you answer those, and they want to do something, their lawn, whatever, well, how often are you watering? I water every day. Every day for how long? Well, 3 minutes. And so you have to go through the whole explanation about 3 minutes gives this much water, you're not getting degrouped or blah, blah, blah. But, there's too many questions. So if you want to try to answer some of these questions, you might think about some of these things. Are you in the sun? Are you in the shade? Does the yard face north or south or east or west? Do you have things that shade your garden? What is the scale of your property? You wanted an agave americana marginata that's going to grow 10 feet in my 10 by 10 foot garden? Wouldn't that be weird? Some things start out small and get really, really big. And other things start small and they stay small. So the Western Garden Book is going to be your friend. And when you go to your Ask a Master Gardener booths or you're on the hotline, you'll use that Western Garden Book a lot. It's a great resource. It's really one of the greatest. If you're trying to help someone because there's nothing else to do and you think, well, okay, I can give you a couple things to say. Put the tall things in the back. Put the short things in the front. Use boulders and elevations and rocks and garden art to give it some interest to the garden. If they're replacing their lawn, their lovely flat lawn, you're not going to want to replace it with a lovely flat bed of succulents. You want to have a little bit of sculpture into the garden. And of course, I already showed you how easy they are to propagate. This did not come out. I changed the slide, but this was supposed to show you what you really can see this. But if you just walk outside, this is actually a picture of our fire-resistant garden. And on the picture I took that looked really good, you could see all the PVC pipe and stuff because they were doing some work. But I don't want to see PVC pipe, that's going to really give it away. But these are all succulents in here. And this little tiny house, and one of our docents takes care of it. And she looks like Gulliver in there. And she bends over and reads and plants. She's probably only 5'5", but she looks just gigantic when she's tending into this garden. But it's just a wonderful display. It's just down the path, and you'll see this. So please do stop and look at the wonderful design they did. And with all of the design talk and the fires and everything, and houses that were saved and gardens that were saved, and the people who had defensible space and planted with things that didn't burn. So just some examples, and these are Laura Eubank's designs. You can see a little bit before. This is just a tree. I know you can't see the whole thing. And just a little plot of soil. What do you do with it? And so look what Laura did with it. Really, really lovely. Here's something bigger, and you can see this just with a wall up here. They already did have some succulents. And just a retaining wall with just a little square, not very pretty, just ordinary. And so Laura changed it all. She has a few little stepping stones here and more stepping stones here, and planted it up. Just look beautifully. Lots of colors. Gosh, I have one more minute here. Lots of different colors that succulents come in. We'll just flash through those. The succulent color.